Welcome to our channel Legends of Black Excellence. Get ready to dive into a thrilling countdown that celebrates raw power, unbreakable grit, and iconic legacies. Today, we're unveiling the 20 toughest black actors in Hollywood history, men who didn't just play tough on screen but lived it in real life. From war heroes to street fighters, these legends smashed barriers and redefined strength. Who's the toughest of them all? Stick around, because my vote might just shock you. Hit that subscribe button and let's honor these unstoppable icons together. Woody Strode, number 20. Before stepping into Hollywood, Woody Strode had already proven himself as an extraordinary force. Standing 6 feet 4 inches with a muscular build, he dominated everything from professional football to wrestling. His journey began in the NFL, where he became one of the first black players to suit up for the Los Angeles Rams in 1946. But Strode's strength wasn't confined to the sports world. During World War II, he served in the United States Army Air Corps, training black pilots for combat. This military experience solidified his reputation as someone capable of handling physical and mental challenges. Hollywood wasn't quick to embrace black actors in strong, commanding roles, but Strode pushed the boundaries. His breakthrough came in Spartacus, 1960, where he starred in one of the most intense and realistic fight scenes with Kirk Douglas, so real that Douglas later admitted Strode could have easily defeated him in a real fight. Outside of film, Strode honed his combat skills further, training in judo and wrestling with legends like Bobo Brazil. His physical prowess led him to iconic roles in Sergeant Rutledge and The Professionals, where his imposing presence and athleticism set him apart. Even Quentin Tarantino drew inspiration from Strode for the character of Django. A close friend of director John Ford, Strode's friendships with Hollywood giants like John Wayne showed his resilience, as he navigated racial tensions with strength and dignity. James Edwards, number 19. Imagine fighting in World War II, getting wounded, and then portraying a soldier on the big screen. James Edwards lived both realities. One of the first black actors to portray dignified military roles in Hollywood, Edwards' life mirrored the roles he took on. Before his acting career, Edwards served as an officer during World War II, engaging in real combat. He returned home bearing the physical and emotional scars of war. During the 1940s, Hollywood was not kind to black actors, often casting them in stereotypical roles, but Edwards refused to be confined. He became the first black actor to lead a major war film, starring in Home of the Brave, 1949, where he portrayed a soldier battling both the enemy and racism within his own unit. The film was so controversial that Southern theaters banned it. Edwards' most iconic role came in The Steel Helmet, 1951, a brutal war film where he played a combat medic. Director Samuel Fuller cast him for his authenticity, knowing Edwards had experienced real war firsthand. His performance was so powerful that actual soldiers praised him for capturing the true essence of war. Tragically, Edwards' career was cut short when he mysteriously passed away at the age of 51, under circumstances still debated today. Some believe Hollywood's racial politics contributed to his career's decline. Edwards was even cast in Patton, 1970, but was replaced unexpectedly, likely due to racial discrimination in the industry. Stepin Fetchit, Lincoln Perry, number 18. He played a clumsy character on screen, but behind the scenes, he trained world champions, including Muhammad Ali. This man was no joke. Lincoln Perry, better known as Stepin Fetchit, is often remembered as Hollywood's first black millionaire, yet he remains one of its most controversial figures. What few know is that behind his comedic persona, Perry was a brilliant boxing strategist and mentor to some of the greatest fighters in history. During Hollywood's golden age, Perry became famous for portraying a slow-moving, lazy character, which earned him criticism for promoting racial stereotypes. However, Perry was far from weak in real life. He was a boxing intellect, working closely with fighters like Sonny Liston and Muhammad Ali. Perry taught Ali psychological tactics that would later make him the greatest trash talker in sports. The iconic rope-a-dope strategy came straight from Perry's playbook. He helped Liston master intimidation, turning him into one of the most feared heavyweight champions. Perry even advised Joe Louis on mental warfare before major fights. Despite leaving a lasting legacy in boxing, Perry's Hollywood career faltered as black audiences grew tired of stereotypical roles, and he faded from the industry, losing his fortune. Still, his impact in the ring lives on through the world's greatest fighters. Muhammad Ali once said that Perry taught him how to be a champion before he ever became one. Bernie Hamilton, number 17. Before portraying one of the toughest cops on TV, Bernie Hamilton was a real-life boxer, but his greatest battle occurred in Hollywood. Hamilton is best known for his role as Captain Dobby in Starsky and Hutch, but his path to Hollywood was anything but ordinary. Prior to stepping in front of the camera, Hamilton was a trained boxer and a street fighter who knew how to defend himself. He grew up in tough neighborhoods, where he learned to survive through sheer grit and determination. Initially, Hamilton was set for a career in the ring, training with a welterweight boxer and sparring with some of the best of his era. His athletic build and fighting spirit made him a natural choice for action roles, but Hollywood wasn't ready for strong black leading men, so Hamilton had to fight his way into the industry. He broke through in the 1960s, landing roles in films like The Young One and Scream Blackula Scream. However, it was in the 1970s when he landed his most famous role as the tough, no-nonsense police captain in Starsky and Hutch. His portrayal was so convincing that real police officers admired his toughness. Behind the scenes, Hamilton was known for standing firm against producers who tried to limit black roles in Hollywood. He demanded respect and changed how black men were portrayed on TV. His ability to fight both in the streets and within the industry made him one of Hollywood's true tough guys. Bernie Hamilton refused to play weak characters and turned down roles that didn't match his strong, authoritative personality. Canada Lee, number 16. He started as a professional boxer, became a Hollywood star, and then risked it all to fight for civil rights. This is true strength. Canada Lee was a boxing champion before he became one of Hollywood's most powerful actors. He began his career in the 1920s as a lightweight boxer, winning 90% of his matches by knockout. But after suffering a serious eye injury in the ring, he was forced to retire early. Instead of giving up, Lee reinvented himself as an actor. His breakout role came in Body and Soul, 1947, where he played a former boxer struggling with corruption. The film felt authentic because Lee drew from his own experiences in the sport. However, Lee's real battle took place off-screen. In the 1940s and 1950s, he became a vocal advocate for civil rights, speaking out against Hollywood's racist practices. This made him a target of the FBI during the Red Scare, and he was blacklisted by the industry. His promising career was destroyed for speaking the truth. Lee passed away at 45, but his legacy endures. He is credited with opening doors for future black actors to portray strong, dignified roles. Orson Welles once said, "Canada was the greatest actor I ever worked with." Herb Jeffries, number 15. Before black cowboys in Hollywood became a trend, one man truly lived the role, riding horses, fighting, and breaking every rule along the way. Herb Jeffries was Hollywood's first black singing cowboy, but unlike many other actors, he performed all of his own stunts. Growing up in Detroit, Jeffries became captivated by Western films but soon realized there were no black cowboys in Hollywood, so he decided to change that. In the 1930s, he wrote, produced, and starred in The Bronze Buckaroo, becoming the first black actor to lead a Western film. He rode real horses, fought real cowboys, and handled firearms like an expert. His performances weren't just for show, he was a trained stunt rider and an excellent marksman. During World War II, Jeffries joined the U.S. Army Air Corps, serving in a segregated unit. When he returned to Hollywood, he found that the Western genre had changed. Instead of trying to fit into a system that overlooked black actors, he transitioned into a jazz singing career, collaborating with legends like Duke Ellington. Jeffries' influence stretched far beyond Hollywood. He proved that black cowboys were real and paved the way for future cowboy stars like Morgan Freeman and Idris Elba. Jeffries once broke his leg during a dangerous horse riding stunt but still completed the scene before going to the hospital. Melvin Van Peebles, number 14. Before breaking all the rules in filmmaking, he served in the U.S. Air Force and lived without limits. This man was unstoppable. Melvin Van Peebles wasn't just strong, he was fearless. Before making history in Hollywood, he served as a navigator in the U.S. Air Force. While most filmmakers climbed the industry ladder, Van Peebles built his own path. He taught himself filmmaking, directing, acting, and even performed his own stunts. His most famous film, Sweet Sweetback's Battis's Song, 1971, was so controversial that the FBI monitored its release, fearing it would incite rebellion. He self-financed the film, performed his own fight scenes, and even injured himself during the process. But the industry wasn't ready for him. Van Peebles was often blacklisted by major studios for refusing to follow the rules. He responded by creating a complete independent film movement, inspiring legends like Spike Lee and Quentin Tarantino. Off-screen, he was also an author, playwright, and Wall Street stock trader. This man did it all and never let Hollywood control him. Van Peebles even contracted a sexually transmitted disease while filming Sweetback, then successfully demanded the studio pay for his medical bills. Billy Daniels, number 13. Before becoming a jazz sensation, he was a true fighter, and when war called, he stepped up without hesitation. Billy Daniels had two talents: knocking out opponents and owning the stage. Before he became famous as a singer and actor, Daniels trained in boxing, stepping into the ring more than a few times. But his toughest battle came during World War II when he served in the U.S. Army. After returning from the war, Daniels didn't just fade into the background. He became one of the biggest jazz stars of his time. He was the first black performer to headline in Las Vegas, breaking racial barriers. But he didn't just perform, he fought. When venues refused to let black audiences in, Daniels walked away from contracts and demanded change. On screen, Daniels often played strong, charismatic characters, bringing the same strength he had in real life. Even in his later years, he remained a street-smart fighter at heart, never backing down from a challenge. Daniels was once kicked out of a club for standing up for black patrons, only to return and headline the same club a year later. His resilience, both in his career and personal life, made him one of Hollywood's toughest. Moses Gunn, number 12. He could quote Shakespeare, throw a punch, and dominate any scene, but his toughest battles weren't fought on screen, they were fought in real life. Moses Gunn wasn't just an actor, he was a natural force with a deep, powerful voice and a presence that could silence a room. He was born to play powerful roles, but before Hollywood, Gunn had to fight his way out of extreme poverty. Growing up in St. Louis, he survived street violence and racism before finding his calling in the theater. Gunn was a master of Shakespearean acting, a rarity for black actors at the time. He performed in classic plays like Othello and Macbeth, with an intensity that rivaled the greats. But Gunn wasn't just about words, he had the physical strength of a trained warrior. His muscular build and tough upbringing made him a natural fit for roles in Shaft, 1971, and Ragtime, 1981. Off-screen, Gunn was just as tough, refusing roles that demeaned black characters and challenging Hollywood directors who tried to limit black actors. He spent his career demanding better representation, opening doors for future generations. Gunn once confronted a Hollywood producer who tried to downplay his worth, then walked away, refusing to work for less than what he deserved. Rex Ingram, number 11. He stood over 6 feet tall, with the voice of a king, and refused to bow to anyone. Rex Ingram was a legend, a man whose presence commanded respect. Born in 1895 in the South, where opportunities for black men were almost non-existent, Ingram stood apart with his towering height, physical strength, and intellectual prowess. Before Hollywood, he worked as a professional boxer, using his physicality to make a living. When he transitioned to acting, his deep, resonant voice made him a natural choice for roles of power and authority. He portrayed everything from Arabian sorcerers to African kings, most famously as the genie in The Thief of Baghdad, 1940. However, Hollywood tried to box him into racial stereotypes, offering roles that reinforced biased images of black men. Ingram fought back, choosing roles that showcased dignity and intellect instead of succumbing to racial discrimination. Fluent in multiple languages and highly educated, Ingram outwitted Hollywood executives who underestimated him. Even when faced with racism, his legacy as a respected and powerful black actor remained unshaken. During World War II, Ingram turned down roles that portrayed black men negatively, even though this meant sacrificing lucrative opportunities. His uncompromising integrity and determination to break racial barriers ensured his place as one of the toughest and most respected black actors in Hollywood history. Scatman Crothers, number 10. He was not just a voice actor, he was a war veteran, a boxer, and a man who fought to succeed. Most remember Scatman Crothers for his smooth jazz voice and acting, but behind the charming smile was a truly strong man. Born in 1910, Crothers served in World War II, facing real combat before coming to Hollywood. But even before that, Crothers had to fight. Growing up in tough neighborhoods, he learned martial arts and street survival skills to defend himself. These skills would serve him later when he refused to tolerate disrespect from Hollywood directors who undervalued black artists. Despite his warm personality, Crothers was a warrior at heart. He broke into film during a time when black actors had limited roles, yet Crothers refused to conform to stereotypes. He made history in The Shining, 1980, becoming one of the first black actors to take a leading role in a horror film. Even Jack Nicholson called Crothers one of the toughest on set. Crothers continued to work until his last days, proving that true strength is not just about muscle, but resilience. At 70, he could still perform martial arts moves that most younger actors wouldn't dare attempt. Paul Winfield, number 9. From the military to the big screen, Paul Winfield carried discipline and strength wherever he went, and when Hollywood pushed back, he pushed harder. Winfield was a man of military discipline and Hollywood excellence. Before becoming a renowned actor, he served in the U.S. Army, where he learned the strength that would later shape his acting career. He didn't just play strong characters, he was one. Winfield became famous for portraying historical and authoritative figures, from Martin Luther King Jr. to high-ranking military officials. What set him apart was his ability to combine intellectual power with real physical presence. His deep, commanding voice and muscular build made him a natural leader on screen. However, Hollywood, as usual, had its barriers for black actors. Winfield fought against being typecast, ensuring that he wasn't relegated to minor roles but rather took on leading parts. His performance in Sounder, 1972, earned him an Oscar nomination, and he went on to star in iconic films like The Terminator, 1984. Behind the scenes, he was known as one of the most intense method actors, often staying in character even when the cameras were off to deliver his best performance. His commitment was unmatched, and his presence in Hollywood broke down stereotypes. Winfield once turned down a multi-million-dollar role because he refused to play a weak black character in a racially biased script. Brock Peters, number 8. He played some of Hollywood's fiercest characters, but behind the scenes, he was even stronger. Just the sound of his voice could shake a room. Brock Peters was Hollywood's go-to actor for strength, authority, and quiet ferocity. His deep, resonant voice and intense presence on screen made him unforgettable. But Peters didn't just portray powerful characters, he was one in real life. Born in 1927, Peters faced all the racial barriers Hollywood had to offer. Instead of stepping back, he pushed himself into powerful roles, starring in iconic films like To Kill a Mockingbird, 1962, where he played Tom Robinson, a character with emotional depth and a tragic fate that captured the world's attention. His strength wasn't just emotional. Peters had the physical presence that naturally suited action-heavy roles in films like Soylent Green, 1973, and Star Trek. He was also a fierce activist, using his influence to challenge racial discrimination in Hollywood. Off-screen, he trained in combat sports and was known for his no-nonsense attitude. If a director tried to push him into a weak role, he walked away without hesitation. His authority and presence, intellect, and refusal to be typecast made him one of Hollywood's most powerful icons. His performance in To Kill a Mockingbird was so convincing that audiences left the theater genuinely angry over his character's verdict. Juano Hernandez, number 7. He started as a circus performer, became a boxer, and ended up as one of the most respected black actors in Hollywood. Juano Hernandez's path to greatness in Hollywood was one of the most unexpected. Born in 1896 in Puerto Rico, he grew up in hardship, training as a boxer and acrobat in traveling circuses. This physical strength later helped him perform his own stunts in action-heavy films, a feat few actors dared to attempt during Hollywood's golden age. But Hernandez's real battle wasn't in the ring, it was against Hollywood's racially biased casting system. Rather than playing subservient roles, Hernandez demanded to portray educated, strong, and dignified black men. His breakout role came in Intruder in the Dust, 1949, where he played a man falsely accused but refusing to beg for his life. Critics called it one of the greatest performances ever seen in courtroom drama. Hernandez's presence was unparalleled. He had a deep, powerful voice, a fierce gaze, and the physique of an athlete. Directors often said that when he stepped into a scene, no one else mattered. He broke barriers, took on dangerous roles, and refused to compromise his principles. Hernandez performed his own stunts well into his 50s, a feat that even the biggest Hollywood action stars would not risk. Raymond St. Jacques, number 6. Before becoming a Hollywood star, he fought real battles on the streets. His tough guy image wasn't just an act, it was his life. Raymond St. Jacques wasn't just a tough guy on screen, he lived it in real life. Born in 1930, he grew up in the rough neighborhoods of New York, where he had to fight to survive. Unlike many actors, he didn't just play tough characters, he embodied them. He trained in boxing and street fighting, and his indomitable reputation followed him to Hollywood. St. Jacques broke new ground by becoming the first black actor to land a regular role in a TV Western series, starring in Rawhide. But his most iconic role came in Cotton Comes to Harlem, 1970, where he played a tough detective who defied racial stereotypes and took down criminals with pure physical strength. Hollywood executives didn't always appreciate him because he refused weak roles. If a script didn't portray black characters with dignity, he threw it out. He demanded respect, fought for better roles, and helped change the way Hollywood depicted black men. In a heated argument with a director, St. Jacques once challenged him to a fistfight, and the director immediately backed down. His no-nonsense attitude and relentless drive made him one of Hollywood's toughest and most respected black actors. Yaphet Kotto, number 5. He played some of Hollywood's most fearsome villains, but in real life, he was even tougher. This man could stand his ground in any fight. Yaphet Kotto was not just one of Hollywood's toughest actors, he was a powerhouse. Standing 6 feet 3 inches with a massive build, Kotto had a presence that could shake any room. Before becoming an actor, he trained in martial arts and street fighting, making him one of the few actors who could genuinely hold his own in combat. Born in 1939, Kotto grew up with a tough childhood, constantly fighting and learning survival skills on the streets. His strength led him to play some of Hollywood's most iconic villains, including Mr. Big in Live and Let Die, 1973, the first black Bond villain. He was so intimidating that Roger Moore later admitted Kotto could have beaten him in a real fight. Kotto's biggest role came in Alien, 1979, where he played Parker, a character originally written for a white actor. He refused to portray the stereotypical black man and instead made Parker one of the most powerful characters in the film. Directors admired him, but some feared his real intensity because when Kotto got angry, people had to listen. Kotto turned down the role of Lando Calrissian in Star Wars because he didn't want to be typecast as a sidekick. His refusal to be pigeonholed and his undeniable strength made him one of Hollywood's toughest and most respected actors. Carl Weathers, number 4. Before becoming Apollo Creed, he faced off against real NFL players and fought his way into Hollywood. This man was born to fight. Carl Weathers didn't just act when throwing punches in Rocky, 1976, he was a real athlete with actual combat skills. Before Hollywood, he played for the NFL's Oakland Raiders, where he learned strength on the field. Standing 6 feet 2 inches and weighing over 220 pounds, Weathers had the power and speed to dominate opponents. After his football career, he trained in boxing and martial arts, making him one of the few actors who could genuinely hold his own in on-screen fight scenes. His breakout role as Apollo Creed turned him into a legend, facing off against Sylvester Stallone in some of the most intense fight scenes ever filmed. But Weathers wasn't just about sports, he was disciplined, strategic, and fiercely independent. He refused to be typecast, taking on roles that were smart and powerful, such as in Predator, 1987, where he stood alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger and proved he was as tough as any action star of the time. During the filming of Rocky, Weathers accidentally hit Stallone so hard that he left bruises that lasted for days. Fred Williamson, number 3. A legendary NFL player, boxer, and action hero, this man didn't just play tough roles, he lived them. Fred Williamson earned the nickname, the Hammer, for a reason. Before Hollywood, he was one of the hardest-hitting defensive backs in the NFL, playing for teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers and Oakland Raiders. He became famous for his brutal tackles that left opponents trembling. After retiring from football, Williamson trained in karate and boxing, using his physical strength to transition into acting. He didn't wait for Hollywood to offer him roles. He created his own films, producing his roles and becoming one of the biggest action stars of the 1970s. He starred in Black Caesar, 1973, 3 The Hard Way, 1974, and From Dusk Till Dawn, 1996, proving he could face off with anyone. Williamson had one rule in his career: he never lost a fight scene on screen. He refused to play weak characters, setting a new standard for black actors in Hollywood. Directors knew that if they cast him, they had to portray him as a winner, not a victim. Williamson turned down several major Hollywood roles because they required him to fail or be defeated in fight scenes. Jim Brown, number 2. He was the most dominant player in football history and then became an action hero who refused to take orders from Hollywood. This man was born for greatness. Jim Brown was not only one of the toughest actors in Hollywood, but he was also one of the toughest men in history. Before stepping into films, he was a legendary NFL player, regarded as the greatest running back of all time, playing for the Cleveland Browns. He led the league in rushing yards almost every season and became famous for breaking tackles like they were nothing. Standing 6 feet 2 inches and weighing 230 pounds of pure muscle, Brown didn't just play football, he dominated it. But he left the sport at its peak to conquer Hollywood, where he quickly made history in The Dirty Dozen, 1967. In an era when black actors were sidelined, Brown fought for equal screen time, larger roles, and real action scenes. He redefined the action hero, starring in films like Slaughter, 1972, and 3 The Hard Way, 1974. Unlike other stars, he performed his own stunts, showcased real fight scenes, and never allowed Hollywood to make him weak. Off-screen, Brown was a fearless civil rights activist and leader, ready to challenge anyone from Hollywood directors to the mafia. Jim Brown once knocked out a disrespectful Hollywood producer, then walked off the set as if nothing had happened. Sidney Poitier, number 1. He didn't just fight on screen, he fought an entire system and won. His strength wasn't just physical, it changed history. Sidney Poitier may not have been an NFL star or a boxer, but his strength was unmatched. Born in extreme poverty in the Bahamas, he moved to the US as a teenager and faced racism at every turn. Instead of backing down, he fought with intelligence, resilience, and fierce determination. Before Hollywood, Poitier joined the US Army during World War II, where he trained as a medical aide. He later escaped the military by pretending to be mentally unstable, outsmarting the system to pursue acting. When he entered Hollywood, black actors were often given stereotypical, degrading roles, but Poitier refused to accept any of them. He demanded scripts that showcased intellect, dignity, and strength. His performances in Lilies of the Field, 1963, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, 1967, shattered Hollywood's racial barriers. Poitier didn't just fight for himself, he fought for an entire generation. Directors, producers, and even fellow actors tried to push him into subservient roles, but he stood firm, eventually becoming the first black man to win the Academy Award for Best Actor. His battles weren't fought with fists, but with an unyielding mind, unrelenting courage, and the ability to change history. That's why Sidney Poitier is the toughest black actor in Hollywood history. Poitier once turned down a $5 million film contract because the role was disrespectful, choosing dignity over money. That's our countdown of the 20 toughest black actors in Hollywood history. From Sidney Poitier's unbreakable spirit to Jim Brown's raw power, these legends didn't just act, they lived toughness, shattering barriers, and inspiring generations. Each story proves strength isn't just physical, it's the courage to defy odds and change the game. Who do you think deserves the top spot? Did we miss anyone who should have made the cut? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, we'd love to hear your take. If you enjoyed this tribute to Black Excellence, please hit that like button and share it with fellow fans. Don't forget to subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more stories of iconic trailblazers. Your support keeps us going, so join our community today and let's celebrate these unstoppable heroes together. See you in the next video.